Hey everybody, welcome to Cousin Vinny's Place. I just got done doing another podcast with Mr. Frank Salvato of Underground USA. It was a very informative podcast. We discussed a number of topics. It's worth your while to check it out. Please subscribe, like, and share this video, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when new videos are uploaded. Thanks for watching, and without further ado, here's the podcast.
Good evening, Mr. Del Vecchio, once again.
Good evening, Mr. Salvato. Once again, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Just overly inundated with the current events that have been jammed into me from both ends, depending on what the avenue of information resource is.
Yeah.
You know, I think the big story of the week is the McCabe-Rosenstein thing.
Yeah.
He's one thing that surprised me about the McCabe thing, and Fox is supposed to be this bastion of conservative right wing, this, that, the other. They are pushing this guy's book as if he was paying them to push the book. Every story is, and in his new book,
yeah,
The Threat, and in his new book, he says, his new book says, if this guy's a liar, and they've been calling him a liar for over 2 years now,
right,
and he's not to be trusted, why mention the name of his book?
No clue. Didn't they do the same with Comey?
Yes. It's like, and Mr. Comey's book is coming out Sunday. It's being released in 3 seconds. If the guy's a liar, don't hawk his book.
Right. You're just... You're increasing his 15 minutes of fame at this point. Why? And you're losing credibility.
Well, and I'm looking at this, and this just struck me as I was reading that, getting a little bit more pissed off every time I saw the title of the book. It's as if the media is rewarding him with riches for having been discharged from the federal government on ethics charges. If you can't do what you were going to do in government, which was pretty much cockblock everything that had to do with the Democrats,
right?
Then we'll make you a bestseller in the New York Times list, and you can have $1 million and go about your way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Michael Flynn has to sell his house in Virginia because the legal bills are so hard because he won't write a book.
Right, and Roger Stone has agents from the FBI raid his offices. Yeah. It's this double standard that you and I have spoken about, countless times. It's just disgusting. It's just,
Yeah, this is, and I want to get deeper into the whole McCabe thing because there's a much more serious aspect to this,
right?
That has to do with people who are seated in positions of nonpartisan trust, who literally, and I know when we use the word coup, everybody's mind wants to run to a third world dictator where a general with a loyal troops kicks open the doors and grabs El Presidente and pulls him out and strips him naked and throws him in the swamp or whatever. Mm-hmm. These guys did it intellectually. They were trying to go about it, bastardizing the justice system and using the Constitution as a floor mat. And boy, that just can't be. But we're looking at, and you hit on this, and I'll get back to that. You hit on this before. It's the media is legitimizing this guy, even though everything that he touched on was bullshit.
Right.
I mean, even in the court documents that Mueller isn't contesting are genuine and forthright. The timetable that McCabe is saying that he met with Flynn, when he met with him, is off by hours. And McCabe is saying this happened. He said it would. Isn't the sky a beautiful black at noon, and then at 1 o'clock? Well, no one got to the question guy till 2:15, according to court records. So how bullshit is McCabe?
Well, it's not just that. I mean, didn't he also sign off on a couple of the FISA applications?
Absolutely. He put them forth. Yeah.
Okay. So here he bullshitted a FISA court. He used fraudulent and false information that wasn't verified to a FISA court to obtain a search warrant on an American citizen. And And now you're going to give him a book deal? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, the book now you're going to push his
Right. Well,
friggin'
yeah.
book, the objective media.
That's what I meant. Yeah, sure, right. Yeah, but
You know,
it's
so
horrendous.
so the
It's
guy's
horrendous.
getting rewarded for bad behavior because, and this really does all come down to our society a little bit.
Yeah, because right,
It's the got to look at the accident when we go by, even though there's another ambulance coming up behind you. You're so important. You've got to look at you've got to look at the accident.
right. Yeah,
This is the same thing. We know the guy's a liar, but everybody's going to buy his book to see what his lies were.
right, right. And but it's not just him. It's this whole web. It's him. It's Rosenstein. It's Strzok. It's Page. It's everybody at the top. And nothing's going to happen because all the roads lead where? All the roads lead to Hillary Clinton. All of them.
They do.
So right.
And they go back. They go back two administrations now.
Right. And that's why I hate to say this. Nothing's going to come of this because, like I said, all roads lead to Hillary Clinton, and because of that, they're untouchable. So
there was years back, and then this gets into, I want to say 2002, 2000 or 2005, 2006. Just back when when the New Media Journal was the main force in my new media life. I got together at the request of Peter Paul, who had thrown a gigantic money event for Hillary Clinton when she was running for senator in 2000. Just millions of dollars he raised for her at this event. Barbara Streisand sang, the Hollywood Glitterati were there, everything. Clintons loved the man at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But they got into a head-to-head, and he ended up not being a Clintonista, and he started narking on them about what happened. And we 5 of the writers that I had, we listened to this guy's story. I asked each of my writers, interview him. I don't want to talk to you about how you're going to what you're going to write about. Just write about it. You tell me the story. I wanted 5 independent looking into this issue.
Right.
Everybody came up with the same thing, that the biggest case of campaign finance fraud in American history took place with Hillary Clinton's 2000 senatorial campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And every time the investigation, the people who gathered the facts were appalled at this and saw the crime, but every time it advanced up the chain at the Department of Justice, it got blocked, slow-walked, and diluted until it went away.
Right, right.
So these people this McCabe and Strzok and Page and Rosenstein, when you go back to the genesis of their careers, they were all people that were seated during Bill Clinton's campaign. They were put there precisely to do what they're doing right now.
Right. And they're not going to go against Clinton because the Clinton machine will destroy them. Absolutely destroy them. So like I said earlier, because all the roads lead to Hillary Clinton, nothing's going to come of this because no one is going to go against the Clinton machine. Nobody.
No, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
But I was talking to a friend of ours, Micah Matthews,
mm-hmm.
ex-Marine, the other day.
Right.
And we were talking about the Clintons and talking about this subject in particular with the placement of people in positions that brought them to senior level in the Department of Justice, the FBI, the IRS, you name it, there you go. And it came up. Let me ask you, Vinny, how many people do you personally know who've been murdered?
Personally, not that many.
Okay.
I think a few, but
yeah, I think I'm one person in my 57 years I know of that was murdered, and that was appalling to me.
Right.
I don't even know I don't even know it once removed.
Right.
A lot of people who have been murdered or died of nefarious means.
Right.
When you count the people that surrounded the Clintons,
mm-hmm.
all the people who are dead.
Yeah.
It's unnatural. That number is unnatural.
Right. Right.
I'm not saying that the Clintons did it. I'm not saying, yeah, perhaps it's some kind of bizarre controlling cabal, third eye, Sauron type of thing. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah,
But the number is a little weird.
it is. It is. I mean, look, there's the old adage: if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, chances are it's a duck.
It's a
And I mean, the mere fact that these people die mysteriously, otherwise healthy people just
yeah, they don't
either
they don't just
they either drop dead or they have an unfortunate accident or whatever. But like you said, the number is staggering.
they
Considering
don't
that.
they don't just die of natural causes with a revolver in their hand but no gunpowder on their fingers. They
Well,
just don't.
yeah,
That doesn't happen.
well, the official story,
The
is an
official
accident.
story. Yeah, of course. And who was in control of the official story? Oh, I guess
Again, well,
guess that was the Justice Department, wasn't
yeah,
it?
and the media's complicit, and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Like,
So getting back to McCabe, I just wanted
Yeah.
to put that out there because the Clintons, and now she's buzzing and she might want to run again. I mean, just go away.
she won't. They won't
You
go
know,
away. They're
You've
like
got money from Uranium One. You've got money that you coerced out of every other nation for the Clinton Foundation. Nobody knows where all the money for Haiti went through your charity. You've got millions, if not $1 billion. Just fade to black.
she
You
will
got
not.
away with it. You got away with it.
Right,
Good for you.
But she won't because she feels entitled. She feels that it's her turn. She even said it in what was it in '08? She said it's my turn.
Yeah,
So-
Father
so-
Flager was making fun of that and Reverend on
Right, yeah.
Open
Whoever
Mic
said
stage.
right. So she's this. Look, she's not going away.
Okay, one
And-
more thing
Yeah.
thing about Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And I know this is probably very harsh, and people are going to look at me and go, "Oh, that's horrible. You're making fun of her looks." Well,
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
I am.
Well, yeah.
Have-
Okay.
Have you ever seen a profile of her? This woman's
Yeah,
got
well,
an
yeah.
overbite that is insane.
It was sort of
And
Freddie
the-
Mercury, but
Yeah, but Freddie Mercury had musical talent.
true.
I'll give
But
him
still,
that.
but
You know,
you
It's just in. I mean, you could put a fist between her front teeth and her bottom teeth. And the reason I bring this up is how has she been treated with that in the media for close to 25, 30 years?
nobody says a word.
They don't say a word and they never take a shot at her from the side.
Well, no, but of course, because you don't think that if they dared to do that,
They'd be dead.
they'd be dead. Exactly.
They would be in a creek someplace.
Right, look. Hillary Clinton had an email server in the basement of whatever. Okay. Can anybody honestly sit there and say that in the entire time that she was Secretary of State that she didn't communicate with the president via email?
No, she freely admits it.
All right. So you're telling me that he didn't know this? He didn't know that she had this email server, that nobody knew that she had this email server? And yet what happened? Nothing. Because
Nothing.
even he didn't want to go against the Clinton machine. That's how insidious this is.
And there was the one thing I will give McCabe, the lying little weasel, who just he just looks like a little squeaky little weasel bastard.
He is like Struck, and I mean Struck looks evil.
They're all like little pencil neck geeks. I did that old song by that was used to be on Dr. Demento, Pencil Neck Geeks.
Yeah.
He did say that the former Attorney General Loretta Lynch botched it, and there should have been a special counsel seated to investigate the Clinton email scandal. So even a lying weasel criminal,
right,
like McCabe, is saying that she should have been investigated by a special counsel. What more do we need? Dante to come out of the crust of the earth to actually say it?
Even if Loretta Lynch did, okay, what do you think would have come of it? Nothing.
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 You know what? Yes, something would have come of it. The people below her chief of staff probably would have gotten fired and sent to prison for 25 years suspended sentence,
But
and they'd be out writing books, and the media would be making them $1 million.
they found emails on, was it Huma Abedin's computer?
Yeah, Abedin, yeah, right.
Nothing happened to her.
Sent her husband to jail.
He went to jail for something else. He went to jail because he got caught,
Just saying, she was too close to Hillary. There's some stuff there. I don't want to get into it, but
he went to jail for bopping the bishop. All right, he didn't go to jail for that. He went to jail for something else.
Don't talk about McCarrick that way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
That's
another one. He's another one.
But get back to McCabe and the more serious thing, what we had here, and everybody's been talking. Hugh Hewitt talked about it. Victor Davis Hanson wrote a very good article about it. That's his most current one. I'd urge everybody to read it. He's one of the best minds out there. This was a coup attempt in the United States. These were unelected officials trying to entrap people in order to advance a narrative that would have reversed a free election in the United States. They were wiring people up. They wanted to wire people up. They wanted to bastardize the 25th Amendment.
Right.
In order to remove a president. Who are these people to do this?
I mean, look, if you have a legit, on the one hand, if there's a legitimate reason, then okay, fine. But to do what they did, I mean, to weaponize the DOJ and to weaponize the FBI, and that's beyond the pale. That's absolutely beyond the pale.
When a president commits high crimes and misdemeanors,
right,
then you move forward with the process to remove him from office. It's not weaponizing a Justice Department division to make a case to remove him without due process. Which
I agree. No. Right.
We need impeachment proceedings. Now I know I'm sounding like Maxine freaking Waters here.
No, but
that would have been the proper process, and then the trial would have happened, and it would have, the double trial would have happened. You have to impeach in the House, and then you have to have the trial in the Senate.
Right.
But that's the way you go about this. So this little group of people who were outed in their texts and their emails of being vehemently partisan against Trump as a candidate, and then as president-elect, they just decided to open this because they felt there might have been collusion based on a piece of political propaganda that was manufactured for an opposing party to provide disinformation narratives through the election process.
Right.
These people are supposed to be investigators, and they couldn't figure out that the Russia dossier was bullshit.
Well, but Frank, it was paid for by Clinton.
Yeah.
It was paid. So you don't think? Look, and again, I don't want to use the dun 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 conspiracy, but
let's do it. Dun,
you don't dun, dun, you don't think that the orders came from Clinton? You don't think that? You don't think that some of the direction came from that way? I mean,
I'm sure that if Hillary learned anything from Bill, and as much as I dislike Bill Clinton's political philosophy and the way that he went about his machine style politics,
right?
You have to hand it to him that he pulled it off fairly well.
Yeah. Right.
He got impeached, and he still got to serve 2 full terms, and people are still slapping him on the back. You almost want to have a beer with the guy.
Right.
If she learned anything from him, it was plausible deniability. So I'm sure that's why Donna Brazil had to resign in the long run. I'm sure that's why there was major turnover in the hierarchy of the DNC.
Right.
So if she gave an order, it was to somebody 3 people removed. But,
right.
Or it was Valerie Jarrett, because Valerie Jarrett
very possible.
was thinking well beyond Barack Obama.
Yeah, look, you're absolutely right. I'm sure that there was plausible deniability, 9 layers deep or whatever. But look, if the dossier came from her and came from her campaign, I'm telling you, you can bet 1,000 to 1 somewhere down the road, the orders came from her to weaponize and, to use whatever means necessary to bring down Trump.
Okay, so here's the overlying question.
Yeah.
Will the Clintons or anybody associated with the Clintons at the highest levels ever be held to accountability? Ever?
Never. Never.
So they got away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because everybody's running scared. Because, like you said, they're either afraid of their careers, they're afraid that they're going to be destroyed both politically or they're going to be killed.
I mean, this book needs to be written by somebody who's not a partisan. But what happened through the Clinton administration and into the advancement of the progressive movement with Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett, with the way that they have co-opted the media, right, and placed operatives at sensitive levels in all of the investigatory and law enforcement agencies and departments in the federal government. This is nothing less than a subjugation of the Constitution to a political ideology.
Absolutely. And look how far it goes. It goes as far as the FISA court. Because you don't think the FISA court knows that they've been bamboozled? Yet they're silent. Yet they're silent.
So how we elected the people this time around, elected somebody who was, necessarily about as an outsider as you can get. I mean, because of what he did for a living beforehand, he had to grease both sides of the aisle when it came to campaign contributions, because you never know who's going to get elected. That's what business does.
Right.
But for all practical purposes, he was not born of the political apparatus.
No.
And we elected him to office, and even he can't get things cleaned out. So what do?
We have to have an Article 5. I know you're not a fan of this, Frank.
I'm not a fan.
But that's the only option. Right now, it's either an Article 5 convention of states for the sole purpose of proposing amendments to the Constitution, or it's going to be a bloody revolution. Those right now are the only two options, because the apparatus that's against this republic is so deep and the tendrils run so far that I don't see any other way out of this.
The reason that I'm apprehensive, and we've talked about this several times before.
Yeah.
The reason I am so wary, so intensely wary of an Article 5 convention of the states, is because we don't have the intellectual level that our founders and framers held. Each of those people, when you look into their intellect, their IQs, their level of thinking, they operated on a grade 24 level. And that is, to put that in perspective, grade 12 is senior in high school.
Right.
16 is a bachelor's.
Right.
These
guys are operating on PhD level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All of these people got together, and it was during a time when people were, I won't say selfless, because we've never been a selfless nation, really.
Right.
About as selfless as we get is when we champion our own charities. That's when we get selfish, or selfless. But they had the wherewithal to think beyond their immediate generation and beyond their immediate circumstance. That's why they were willing to go to war when they should have gotten crushed.
Right.
I don't trust that we have people in place today that have that integrity. I think they are all out for themselves. I think the politicians who would be involved are whores to political power. And I think that they would be trying to craft amendments to the Constitution that would best serve their political ideology rather than the people of the United States. So it scares the shit out of me.
Then what's the other option, Frank? Revolution? I mean, no, I mean,
as the president says, all options are always on the table.
That's where we're at. If he can't root out this evil, if he can't pull this cancer out, then what the hell else do we have to do? I mean,
let me float a theory.
Okay, good.
And I've been talking about this on and off for a while now. and the chances of it ever coming to pass are slim to none because of the greed factor when it comes to things.
Right.
But if in fact we do two things, we can neuter the federal government to the point where it would be singing a cappella in a Vienna choir.
Right.
If we bring back nullification so that the states can nullify overreach by the federal government through that just egregious reach of the Commerce Clause.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get states to say, you know what, our citizens are not going to just remit their federal taxes to the federal government anymore because you're spendthrift. We believe that it's upside down. The Constitution says that the federal government should do very few things, and that the states' constitutions have to mean something. It wasn't just, okay, we've got our own constitutions, now we're part of the United States, now they mean nothing anymore.
Right.
The states best know what's best for their own people. If California wants to do bizarre stuff, then let California do bizarre stuff. If New York wants to do bizarre stuff, if Illinois wants to do bizarre stuff, fine.
Right, right.
If people in Kansas don't want to do it like that, they shouldn't be forced to do it because somebody's got a more organized apparatus nationally, and they can lobby people in Washington to jam that morality down anybody's throat. So giving sovereignty back to the states by saying all federal taxes have to go through the state capitals first, then we look at the programs that the federal government have mandated and say, well, we don't really, it's like them wanting to give the stipend for Medicare and Medicaid to the states so that they can apply it the way they know it's needed. Then the states would remit the money for the defense of the country. There's a bill for that, and we got to pay it because that's in the Constitution.
Right.
But when they say, you know what, we're going to fund Planned Parenthood. Well, no, we're not going to do that. We here in Louisiana don't believe that. We here in South Carolina don't believe in that. They elected us to the state house because we're the protector from the federal government.
Right.
And have the tax bills flip a little bit. Let's have the biggest tax bill go to the state and the smaller one go to the federal government. This way, Pelosi and Ocasio-Cortez and Sanders and Schumer, they don't have this slush fund to be spending bullshit on.
Right. Well, how like many states you think would go along with that?
If you're looking at the state houses and you're explaining to them that they get to keep the lion's share of federal tax remission,
well, yeah, true, yeah, all right,
they're going to go.
I see your
You
point.
mean to tell me I get to keep all that? California would be like, absolutely, let's keep all of that. So then you have the federal government. How does the federal government punish a state?
By cutting off revenue.
By cutting off revenue. They have no revenue to cut off.
Right.
The first thing they do is say, we're going to take away your road funding. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Put the state in jail? It can't happen.
Right.
So it would be, we mandate this. Well, we also brought back nullification here, so we're just not going to know.
Hey, listen, I'm all for starving the federal government. I'm 100% on board. I'm 100% on board with that.
It is an option to bloody revolution, but it would take, and we talked about this in the very first chat that we had.
Yeah.
It takes people getting involved at the local level to affect this kind of idea up the food chain to the state government.
Right.
When the light bulb goes off in that dim house,
yeah.
then you may see something happen. And I would suggest that you've got the interstate commerce that is regulated by the federal government.
Right.
Once you have nullification back, the state of Florida, and this is an example. The state of Florida is a pretty self-sustaining state. It's got agriculture, it's got resources. It's
energy.
Energy.
Yeah.
You look at Texas, it's got the same thing, but Florida has some things Texas doesn't have. What if Florida and Texas had their Secretary of States talk to each other and form a pact, a trade pact? Because in between that, you would see Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana going, you know what? We'd like a piece of that as well.
Well, then wouldn't that go against the interstate commerce clause?
Not if you have nullification and not
the supremacy clause? Or the supremacy clause?
Nullification. We, as the Constitution is
And what would it
mandated
take to
here,
get the nullification back, though?
well, all the state has to do is decide it and decide not to take the federal money because you're keeping it.
Oh, okay.
So the federal government,
That sounds good. I'm on board.
Yeah, we're
That sounds
withholding funds from you. Well, what funds are you withholding? We've already kept your stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and this way, when you have states like California who decide they need to spend billions of dollars to give Maseratis to illegal aliens,
Yeah.
on the federal dime.
Right.
Well, okay, where are you getting the money? Because we're not giving our money here in Florida to Washington to give you to do that. Now you're forced to live within your means, right, because no one's going to bail you out. Federal government can't afford it.
Yeah.
So now Florida lives within its means. Now California lives within its means. And what happens when a government lives within its means?
Freedom.
Freedom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it may be a rough sketch of what might be able to happen here, but it is an alternative to locking and loading.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, listen. Look, I said bloody revolution, but look, that's the farthest thing from my mind. It's not what I want. I just don't. I don't know if there's like another alternative. I like your alternative. I hope it works.
No, we would need to get off the ground,
Oh, yeah.
And until someone with a 50,000 watt radio station decides to talk about it.
Well, yeah, but that's why I'm hoping that
I'm gonna know.
But that's why I'm hoping that these chats do something. Hopefully somebody listens and somebody knows somebody that knows somebody, and can. Hey, I just heard on YouTube this crazy idea. What about? And that's all it takes, just a spark and.
Well, I would hope it wouldn't be the first time. Back when I was doing the journal in the 2000s, we did get invited to Washington to talk to the Secretary of Education about some stuff. So it happens.
All it takes is one person to hear these these ideas, and that person knows somebody else, and that's it. And it just like snowballs. I hope.
Yeah, I actually brought this up when I first moved down to this area to your in-laws. I guess they'd be in-laws, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To your in-laws, and there was no pushback. So obviously, it must have been thought out well.
Yeah. There you go.
If I didn't get any chatter from the peanut gallery,
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which brings me at least to the we're talking about states' rights. And that's really what it is. I know there's a friend of ours that argues that term. It's not that states have rights; it's the recognition of the state and sovereignty of the state constitution. So I'll do the long definition on that one.
Sure.
The lawsuits against the Trump administration because he declared the national emergency.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that one, please.
What grounds does Colorado have?
What grounds does New York have?
Well, at least they've got a port.
State.
What the hell?
Not a border state? Are you kidding me?
What the hell does Colorado have?
But where do they go all the damn time? They go to the Ninth Circuit. Why?
Why is that the court to file it in though?
Because
the action was in the second district court.
I'm going to tell you why. Because the Ninth Circuit is loaded with Obama appointees, and they know that all they got to do is walk into the Ninth Circuit, hand them a filing, hand them briefs, and they'll get a decision their way. That's it. They judge shopped it.
Which brings me, you're making me jump forward. I was hoping you were going to bring that up later. You bad man.
What?
We've got 3 openings on the Ninth Circuit.
Yeah.
That could have been pushed and confirmed by a Republican Senate at any time that they wanted to fill those 3 seats. It would come into play right now with this particular issue.
So who do you think's holding it up?
Mitch McConnell, and I want to know why.
You got to ask him. I don't know.
I heard everybody today on the radio talking about, well, they've kind of had their plate full, with the border thing and the shutting down of government. I'm like,
that's a bunch of shit.
Are you trying to tell me that somebody's got 2,000 interns that can't do 3 things at once?
Look, who was it that said that, like we can walk and chew gum at the same time? I mean, come on. It's it's a load of crap. I'm sorry.
There's
Just a load of crap.
there's got to be a reason, and I don't have the answer. But it's definitely a question that people should be asking out loud, if not to friends, to family,
Right.
and everybody else, to the representative. Why do we have control of the Senate, yet we're not confirming judges to the federal bench?
No. Somebody's slow walking it, or somebody's, I don't know.
This is this, and let's go now. We get to go back to Colorado and New York. They have the right to bring the lawsuit. No, they don't have a right to win, but they have a right to bring the lawsuit.
Well, no. Don't you need standing?
Well, I believe the state does have standing.
Colorado?
Yeah, but that was my question. Now,
Well, yeah.
Texas, Arizona,
Border state,
New
California.
Mexico.
Right,
I see that.
yeah, right.
But Colorado?
Well, there were, besides California and New York, there were 14 other states.
14 other states, and Colorado.
Yeah,
Colorado was the one that stuck out in my mind.
Right. I mean, but yeah.
Because it's like, well, I don't know, in the center of the country.
Well, isn't Colorado? Correct me. Isn't the governor a Democrat?
Yep.
There you go.
As a matter of fact, the only state that filed lawsuit against us that has a Republican governor was Maryland.
Well, but Maryland's. But if I'm not mistaken, the legislature's
and a Republican in Maryland. And Maryland is just a hair to the right of Bernie Sanders.
Right. I mean, I think he's more a figurehead than anything else. I don't think.
Yeah. I think when I lived in Annapolis, I remember looking up at the state house with the governor's mansion one time, and he was hiding.
Right, but
yeah. So
again, I go back to the point. They always go to the Ninth Circuit, and now it's going to take 2 years for this thing to wind all the way to the Supreme Court, because that's where it's going.
Yeah, unless the president can ask for a fast track decision.
Yeah,
and he has a right to do that. We've got
Absolutely.
a majority, so the Democrats are not going to like that.
But now you also have to hope that Roberts doesn't flip like he did on Obamacare.
Yeah.
So
what? Until then,
yeah,
it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that because he can mobilize the Army Corps of Engineers as commander-in-chief.
I was going to talk to you about this. Yeah.
He could just say, "Do it."
Now here's my question on this. Let's say he does do that. Say, as my authority as commander in chief, I hereby mobilize the armed forces. The border is hereby shut down. Can the courts can they enjoin that?
The only thing I can see them trying to enact is posse comitatus. But the Army Corps of Engineers routinely works inside the United States in an official capacity on a number of projects, dams, bridges, things like that. So I don't know if
couldn't he just say that
the Army Corps falls under that?
Well, couldn't he just say that it's an invasion?
Well, he should, and let's face it,
it's a flat-out invasion.
The national emergency issue, which he's well within his rights to call because of a lot of things that are happening on the border,
Absolutely.
was legitimized by Barack Obama's national emergency order because of a pandemic or a perceived pandemic.
Right.
So his basis for that was that we need to take security of the borders and move money around to take care of this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now we've got, for the first time in generations, at least in one generation at least, we've got measles popping up in the state of Washington and the state of New York, to the point where the schools have been warned. Where did that come from? It didn't miraculously just pop out of the soil.
Well, I saw, I don't remember the source, but I saw an article that also chicken pox and smallpox are coming back, and tuberculosis and a whole bunch of other, nasty stuff that they stopped immunizing because, we had a handle on it, but they don't have a handle on it in Central America now, and now they're coming in and people are getting infected.
And I would love to see the map that a real CDC would have put together.
Yeah.
to see where the concentrations are, because I'm betting dollars to donuts, and I do love donuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I love dollars, so.
yeah, no. They're my capitalist pigs
damn,
right here.
damn, damn us
Capitalist.
capitalists.
Yeah. I bet you they are highest concentrated in ports of entry,
Yeah,
you like the
sure, right.
Southern California,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Southern Arizona, New
Yep.
York is a port of entry. I bet you Miami's got some.
Because that's where they're coming.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, is there a national emergency? Yeah, you could say there's a hell of a national emergency just on the reappearance of disease.
Right.
Doesn't have to be about the human trafficking, which is prevalent. Doesn't need to be with the just insane poundage of methamphetamine and incredibly dangerous drugs that are coming over the border.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the violence that's coming over the border at the hand of the Mexican cartels, and it doesn't have to be the threat of people using the southern gateway into the United States from countries that might have Islamo-fascist terrorist designs on our country.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
the idea that we've forgotten about 9/11 and securing our border, and I know the go-to argument that they have, oh, they overstayed their visas. Well, okay, now you just made another point to me. Maybe we should scrutinize the visas.
Right.
That's an enhanced
Do
border problem.
right. Do it all. Do it all. Scrutinize the visas. Tighten your H-1B visas and all that other stuff. Tight. Yeah, but you also need to secure the southern border. It's got to be done. It's got. I mean, you said
And it's not just building a barrier, building a wall. I will agree with the people who say that we need high tech and we need it. We need all of it. We need
yes,
all of the
absolutely,
above, not just one,
absolutely.
two, or four. All of it to combat all of that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Human trafficking. Is there anybody anywhere that believes that's a cool thing?
Well, apparently the progressives do. So
I mean,
apparently the progressives love it.
I would love that question to be asked by anyone in the media or anyone during being questioned by someone like Ocasio-Cortez or that dimwit Somali from Minnesota, Omar, who really they should remove her.
Well, yeah, but
The state
Frank,
of Florida should remove her. She's an embarrassment.
like I said, like one of the other times we
Did I say state of Florida? State of Minnesota.
Yeah, like I said, like one of the other times that we spoke. This is all about votes. This is all about votes. If the progressives can't win at the ballot box or they can't win through the legislative process, they try through the court system, and their entire reason for being is to get votes and to stay in power. And that's why they don't give a goddamn what happens at the southern border.
And this needs to be said. I mean, they won't ask. I would love somebody being questioned in a congressional hearing by one of these idiots. Say, may I ask you a question, Miss Congresswoman from wherever you are, land? Are you for human trafficking? Then why aren't you for this? Are you for people dying of heroin overdose and methamphetamine overdose? Why aren't you for this? Turn the tables, because no one's asking them this questions. When Ocasio-Cortez or this Omar, even Pelosi and Schumer get up there and talk about how inhumane the wall is it humane to bring raped women from a journey over the border to sell them into the sex industry?
Right, Frank, I agree, but that would require the media doing its job, and they're complicit in this because they're nothing more than they're the arm of the progressives, and they have a bias in this. They're not going to ask the tough questions. That, like I said, that would require them doing their job, which they're not doing.
This is where we are, and I think we talked about this last week with the genesis of the progressive movement into the United States. Their game plan was to capture the education system and capture the media.
Right.
And they've done it.
And they've done it.
They've done it.
Yeah. They're doing Saul Alinsky's playbook chapter and verse. They're going right along with it.
There were three books that I always told people, and I threw in a fourth one after a while, but the three books that people need to read, anybody who wants to be aware about what's going on, why they're doing this, what their end goal is, and everything else. Um, you need to read Rules for Radicals by Mike Roy or by Saul Alinsky, because
Hmm.
that step
That's the
by
playbook.
step, that's
That's the
the
playbook.
playbook.
That's the
You
playbook.
take any issue, you plug it in, you use those rules, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to win it.
Yep. Absolutely.
You need to read Boss by an old Chicago Sun-Times columnist named Mike Royko, who's since passed, but he knew the inner workings of the Chicago machine.
Hmm.
And that is what's graduated to Washington now that Valerie Jarrett and Barack Obama took a shit all over that town.
Hmm.
This is how this works now. This is what politics is on the national stage. And you need to read the Fabian Freeway by Roselle Martin, which
Hmm.
talks about the genesis of the Fabian progressive movement, which morphed into the modern day progressive movement. They outline the goals. The
Right.
goals of the progressive movement was to capture all the information sources so that an elite oligarchic set could put an ideological movement above all else, including your rights. That was when political correctness popped onto the stage back in the late 70s and early 80s. Remember the books? It was a
Hmm.
political guide to this. It was a joke.
Yeah.
Not a joke anymore.
I know. I know.
And the
You're
last
seeing
one,
it happening.
the last one that people should read, and if you don't read, try like an audio something.
Yeah.
Even if you just listen to a chapter a night while you're laying in bed trying to go to sleep, although it pisses me off and I don't really get to sleep when I listen to these.
Yeah.
But what was the book, Progressive Fascism? Um, damn it. He had the smiley face with the Hitler mustache on the front.
Oh yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember the title of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the newest one, and we'll talk about it next time. I'll research that book, but a
Yeah.
great book as well, because it kind of puts all the three of those books into context now.
Right.
And if we do anything with these weekly chats, we really need to hammer home with everybody, and people who are listening and watching, don't just nod your heads, man. Chime in, make a comment, send an email, tell
Yeah.
us what you want to hear,
Absolutely.
so we can dig into it.
Yeah.
But we have to start educating people about the evils of socialism being pushed at the hands of progressives.
Yep.
And I don't know if you're getting the daily blasts from Sarah Huckabee. Are you getting those?
No, I probably should.
I'll get you put on that list.
Please. Yeah. Okay.
Today's was the last two that they've put out were all about how evil socialism is and why it doesn't work.
Is that a link?
First,
is that something that like anybody can like sign up for?
I believe so. But
Okay, then.
it's a specific send out from the White House press office.
Okay.
They got like 13 or 14 of them. You check this one and you get these.
Okay.
But some very well put together, succinct, to the point arguments about why socialism sucks.
Well, yeah.
And it's something that the Republicans have not done.
Well, Frank, the only argument you need is Venezuela. That's it. One word. Venezuela. That's it.
And
Take a look. Take a look.
But they don't. But they won't. You've got the glitterati set who finds nothing wrong with eating foie gras until you show them that it's the stuffing of a duck until it dies. That they don't want to see any of the bad stuff.
Look,
and when they do see the bad stuff, they say the Americans did it.
Oh please! Oh please! 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 Venezuela. I mean, you.
When's the last time Cher said something nice about the United States?
You know the stats as well as I do. In the 1950s, Venezuela was the fourth largest economy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
In a scant 70 years, their inflation rate is 12 million %, and they're eating zoo animals. I mean, Jesus Christ, we didn't do that. It was the socialist policies that ruined that damn country.
See,
we didn't do it.
Cher would say, and we all know that Cher is this political and economic genius.
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm sure that she's just not bragging about the fact that she was at the Wharton School and probably has an economics degree from Harvard. Because she was gone from the screen for so long. I'm sure she went back to school to
Mm.
understand the why Milton Friedman's a genius
Mm-hmm.
and all that. So she's this pinnacle of knowledge.
Yeah.
This this I don't know. She's like Scion. She's like the giant eye.
Really? Okay.
She all knowing everything,
Yeah.
and we've got her, babe.
Okay.
Um, she would tell you that we didn't allow a pure socialist movement to happen in Venezuela, and our outside influences actually forced Chavez and Maduro to
Uh,
do things that were protective in nature. So the pure Garden of Eden, where kumbaya is equally distributed to everybody, was foiled by American greed and capitalism.
that's the same tired old excuse. Well, it hasn't been tried here, and it hasn't been. When you point out that it's failed, every place it's been tried, there's well, it hasn't been tried here, or well, it wasn't the pure socialism. That's garbage. That's utter and total garbage. All right, it's
We had to we had
and
to
there's no
ex-
word for it. Just look at the facts. Look at
we
what's
had
going on. Just use your own eyes.
we had to execute all those people because they may have been thinking about capitalism.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
So they weren't death squads. They were squads. They were purity squads.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think the Nazis had purity squads, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
The to keep the Aryan race pure. Yeah.
hmm
Exactly.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Nazi, the Nazi Party was a socialist movement, wasn't it?
I believe the title was National Socialist something or other.
Uh-huh.
So there's the word socialist in it.
Socialist again.
Well, USSR, United Soviet
Socialist
Republic.
So everywhere we see the word socialist or socialism popping up in a governmental entity,
Mhm.
we necessarily see not only the oppression of people, but the killing of people that actually don't agree with them.
Sure. Yeah.
The slaughter of people that don't agree with
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
We've lost generational loss due to socialism. It's not just, a couple of, few people. Look, it brings nothing but poverty. It brings misery. It brings death. It brings violence. It brings nothing to the table. It produces nothing. That's it.
Oh, no, I'm gonna respectfully disagree there. It does produce a lot of stuff.
Well,
It produces an
produces
it produces an
everything I just
oligarchic.
said.
Yeah, it produces an oligarchic elite that bleeds the people dry for their
Right.
own greed and prosperity.
Right. Right.
Bernie Sanders, wasn't he the last time around during the election, he was talking about how equitable distribution of wealth was the way to go.
Yeah.
Does everybody have two homes? Because he's got a lake home.
I believe he's got three.
He's got three.
I believe he's got three. I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
I believe he's got three.
And he made that because he gives most of his income back from just being a senator, right? He doesn't.
Horse
Isn't,
shit.
I'm just saying he's a socialist. He's got to share his money.
Yeah,
Right?
oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Are there squatters inside his houses? And
Funny how all these socialists are like well off. Funny.
Nancy Pelosi has a wall around her compound too.
Yeah. Funny about that, huh?
Mm-hmm. Barack Obama has a wall around his mansion. Got to keep those people out.
By the way, that house is that house is beautiful.
Who, Obama? Obama?
Oh yeah.
Well, Valerie Jarrett wouldn't have headed any other way.
Oh sure, yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure if that troll has come out of the basement yet over there.
And what's Nancy Pelosi worth? $100 and something million bucks.
$1 million, and that's just her personally. It's not even in conjunction with her husband.
Right. So how do you make that kind of money?
Making $175,000 a year?
Yeah. How?
Oh,
Jeez, I wonder.
Shrewd investor, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think she does TD Ameritrade or something like that, or Scott's. What is it?
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Scottrade or E-Trade.
E-Trade. Yeah, she's doing E-Trade. Maybe that's why she's not paying attention to legislation. She's busy day trading.
Maybe, yeah.
To make this $150
insider trading. Yeah. That's what she's
see, now I want a special counsel to find out if we can't get Nancy Pelosi insider trading from her day trading up on that giant perch in the House of Representatives. Every time the stock market goes down, she hits that gavel. I don't know what the hell it means, but maybe she's just pissed.
Maybe.
The nanners, little nanners,
Uh,
little nanners.
Before we go, can we talk about our favorite person?
Are you talking about Ayak?
I am talking about Ayak. I am talking about Ayak.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
We have to talk about this in the Amazon fiasco. We have to.
What? That she disenfranchised a bunch of people who wanted jobs?
Well, for like people that don't know, Amazon was going to build, I guess, another headquarters HQ2 in New York. It was going to produce 25,000 jobs and flood New York with billions in revenue.
And that's not an understatement.
No. I'm not bullshitting. It was billions, if not tens of billions. And I guess she was against it because, corporate greed and all that other nonsense. So Amazon decided to pull out, and the Amazon's head of policy communications, Jody Seth, and I have the quote here because people are not going to believe this. She says she blamed Cortez and her anti-Amazon rhetoric and said, quote, "It wasn't any one incident, but months of vitriolic political discourse perpetuated by the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that ultimately resulted in the company's decision to look elsewhere for a new branch to its Seattle base. If you talk to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's never Amazon."
Mm-hmm.
Now, after that, Joe Scarborough, the once conservative Joe Scarborough.
He's just graduated to grand asshole now.
Well, whatever. But he said, okay, that the plan was killed by, quote, "people who don't even understand basic economics," and that left-wing politicians such as Ms. Cortez ignored the majority of Black and Latino New Yorkers who needed those jobs and who wanted those jobs.
I guess that comes under the idea of even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, Mr. Scarborough.
Even Comrade de Blasio had to correct.
Why did I hear boots stomping in the background when you said that? Yeah.
Because Ms. Cortez said that because Amazon was going to get $3 billion in subsidies, okay, she said stupidly, "Well, let's just take that money and spend it."
Mm-hmm.
And even de Blasio had to say that $3 billion would go back in tax incentives was only after we were getting jobs and getting the revenue. So when you're correct, so when you're a representative and you lose 25,000 jobs and billions in revenue.
I believe the number that they were quoting was 26
billion. Yeah. And you get called to the carpet by de Blasio.
Well, and Cuomo went after her too.
Yeah, right. What the hell is her like 15 minutes up? Is this going to keep on going? Is
the golden child of the progressive movement, and this is, and I got a theory about this too. I don't sleep much.
Who does these days?
Yeah, I know. You got 25,000 jobs lost in her and surrounding districts.
Right.
That should kill her reelection chances right there. It should. And if it doesn't, the Republicans aren't doing it right, and the Democrats aren't doing it, because the Democrats should be trying to get her out as well. You've got the loss of at least $26 billion in tax revenue to the state of New York.
Right.
And New York City. They divide that all up. Revenue that's very, very badly needed.
They're hemorrhaging money. They're hemorrhaging money. Oh, yeah.
So this was a need thing. This twit, and it's really, I got to find something worse than twit. I'm going to go on an etymology hunt this week.
I mean, it's a family show, but you could go crude, but
don't go blue, boys. Don't go blue.
Don't go blue.
How does, when you look at Ocasio-Cortez and Omar and the other the third T of the twit out in Michigan, the new up and comers who just look blindly into the sun. They're making Pelosi look moderate.
Yeah, which is frightening.
That's how they
But
nudge.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
how they nudge. These insane horizon stretchers get voted into office. They celebrate them for a little bit, throw them out there. They make the outrageous Green Deal. They destroyed 25,000 jobs. They destroy a tax base needed to pay for the socialist programs out there.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, Nancy Pelosi looks like she's reasonable when you talk to her. This is how they reframe themselves and move people incrementally to the left. Because now we look at Nancy, well, she's not as bad as Ocasio-Cortez, but before Ocasio-Cortez, Pelosi was a lunatic.
She was batshit crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
So now she's, because of this, because they've stretched that horizon out there, that extreme. Now the extreme that used to be extreme is not so extreme anymore, and this is how they've done it ever since the Clintons got into office. And they've been doing it since Woodrow Wilson, but they haven't been doing it as blatantly, overtly, and extremely as they are doing it now.
Yeah.
But I still want an AOC T-shirt.
Long live AOC.
I do.
I think we're gonna be talking about her for a while
Until she goes away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look. I don't know. I mean, do we want her to go away, or does she?
No, I want her to stay until the election.
Yeah.
Then I want her to go away.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I think she'd be a perfect running mate for either Elizabeth Warren or Bernie. Feel the burn, Ocasio-Cortez.
I mean, do you think the people in her district have like buyer's remorse at this point, or
the 4% that voted for her?
Or do you think that they're just so, the uneducated voter that they just don't give a shit? They'll just put anybody in there.
The 4% that voted for her. She got in because of voter apathy. So if you want to walk down the street in her district of New York, you can punch 96% of the voters in the face for not going to the ballot box, for delivering this idiot to the national stage. So that's where you've got to lay the blame.
Do you think people they care?
In her district? No, they don't, because they're too involved in their own lives.
Right. So
which you don't. I can't blame anybody for being involved in their own lives. Be involved in your own lives.
No, I get it.
Embrace it. But you're a citizen here, and you got to pay attention a little bit.
Well, look, I've always said,
unless you're voting for Ocasio-Cortez, I don't want you paying attention at all.
Citizenship in this country carries with it responsibilities. I mean, you have to be somewhat educated. You have to know civics. You got to know, the founding principles and all that. And unfortunately, you really shouldn't be complacent, because complacency breeds
Ocasio-Cortez. Yes.
And the lovely senator from Minnesota or whatever.
Omar from Minnesota. Yeah, hell, it even gives birth to people like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, right. So, complacency breeds this, and lack of education breeds this. But like you said earlier, the progressives have gotten into the education system. Mm-hmm. They've gotten into the court system. They've gotten into all like facets of the culture. So it's insidious.
If you are a parent of somebody who is in the last years of high school, and you're even considering that colleges are a petri dish for ideological vomit,
mm-hmm.
I urge you to have your child during the summer between high school and college, if they're not taking a year off before college, which I'm kind of thinking more and more is a bright thing to do. Not everybody needs a stampede to get a lesbian woman's toenails degree from southern Angola,
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because there's such a market for people to teach that these days. Have them go to the Hillsdale and take the free classes on civics, the Constitution, and the advent of progressivism.
Yeah, I agree.
They're good classes. They're free. They're unmolested by any ideological bent. They're pure.
Pick up a book, for God's sake. Educate yourself. Pick up a
you,
book. Go to a library.
you are asking people to do something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Because like I said, I'm sorry, but I mean, that's why I say citizenship comes with responsibilities. You have a responsibility. You have a duty. You can't just go out there and vote blindly. Like, oh, I'll just, I mean, you can't do that. You're gonna ruin this republic.
You said duty.
Yes, I did. I did say twice.
You said duty twice.
Twice.
All right, Mr. Delvecchio, how can people see your videos?
It is Cousin Vinny's Place on YouTube. And if you need to send me an email for comments, questions, whatever, it's cousinvinnysplace@gmail.com. And where can they see you, my friend?
You can find me on undergroundusa.com. The podcasts are on iHeart, on iTunes, on Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spreaker, and a new podcast app that is free and I think one of the easiest to use where everything is aggregated in there, called Himalaya.
Okay.
So if you go to your app store and and download Himalaya and you search for Underground USA, you can hit the little alarm bell, and every time there's a new episode, it'll just pop up in your notifications on your smart device saying, "Hey, there's a new episode."
Beautiful.
And then you have to go listen.
Yes, you do. And I will put a link to Underground USA on the video description so that people can find you easily. And it was fun chatting with you again, sir.
Beautiful. We will talk to you next week.
And we will do the same.
Until then, all
long live AOC.
AOC.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening.
Yep. Bye.